I'm Sean Cooper, President and owner of Fit Financial Consulting, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Today I want to talk about financial planning, or more specifically, what makes for a sound financial plan. Investopedia provides their definition, which is a comprehensive evaluation of an investor's current and future financial state by using currently known variables to predict future cash flows, asset values, and withdrawal plans. I think that's a fairly solid definition. What are the elements that really go into that? I believe a financial plan should include a variety of elements, including your current financial situation, so your income statement, cash flow statement, and your balance sheet. So breaking down your assets and your liabilities, and possibly even more importantly, your fixed and variable expenses. Should also include your financial goals, which is probably one of the most important parts because that's the aspect that helps keep you on pace. And then your risk tolerance and your ability to assume risk, because they are different, and I'll explain that more later. And finally, your plan, your action steps that you can actually be taking to help you achieve those goals, and then assignments for who's going to take those action steps, and a monitoring process for defining when those action steps should be taken or when steps need to be completed, so that you can help keep people accountable, including yourself. The first element that I discussed was your current financial situation. So this is really just a matter of gathering all the data and putting it all in one concise place so you can get a picture of where you are now. This includes all of your spending habits. So get as many of your expenses together as you can. Your income, not just your typical income from work, but if you have any additional sources of income like rentals or investments and things of that nature. All of your assets together, and as well as your liabilities, so your house, your car, investments, as well as the liabilities associated with those, like a mortgage, your loans, student loans, other debt, anything else that should be incorporated into a typical balance sheet so that we can get an idea of where you stand and what your total net worth might be today. You should also pull together your estate planning documents, any insurance policies that you have, any other issues that you want to address within your financial situation. The ultimate goal being to get a picture of where you are now and get an idea of what steps need to be taken going forward to bridge that gap between your current situation and your ultimate goals. Which brings me to the really fun aspect of financial planning, and that is setting those goals for yourself. Getting an idea of what it is you're trying to achieve financially. It's very much like setting fitness goals, whether it's getting swimsuit ready, being able to keep up with your kids or grandkids, or maybe you're climbing Everest, whatever it may be. You're setting short, midterm, and long-term financial goals to help keep yourself on pace. This is your motivation to help overcome any reluctance or the desire to go out and spend on that immediate gratification. Be as specific as possible when it comes to this. So short-term goals like buying a car or taking a vacation. Medium-term goals like sending the kids to college or buying a house or a second house, and long-term goals like retirement. But again, you want to be as specific as possible, because even a vacation isn't all that specific. A weekend trip for 2 to Florida is going to be very, very different than taking a family of 4 on a 2-week trip to Europe, assuming you're starting in the United States. Expense outlay for those 2 different trips is very different, as can be differences between houses or the cars that you want to buy, and what type of college you want to put your kid through, or how much of their college you want to support. So try to be as specific as possible. Same holds true for retirement and determining what type of lifestyle you want to have in retirement. Next stage probably comprises the bulk of the financial plan, and that is the planning phase. This should include everything that's going to take you from where you are now to where you want to be with your financial goals. So it should include things like insurance, so both life and health insurance, as well as your property and casualty insurance, so house and cars. Disability insurance is also an important one, and then long-term care insurance, which is things people don't typically think about. And this should give you an idea of whether or not how much you currently have of each of these is sufficient, if you need more, if you could cut back to save money, and who you should be talking to discuss this insurance in more detail. The next would be your investment analysis. So breaking down all the investments that you currently have and the goals associated with them. So including college, retirement, short-term things like vacations. And this investment analysis should also discuss ways to improve your cash flow or your ability to save, ways to help you reduce your debt or at least get in control the interest that you're paying. It should also account for your goals. So talking about your goals of taking a vacation or buying a car and how realistic they are, or if they need to be modified, and what you can do to actually start achieving those goals. So it'll give you an idea of how one goal might affect another goal. So if you set this goal of, I want to buy a Ferrari, well, how is that going to impact my ability to take a vacation on an annual basis? And how are these two goals combined going to impact my overall financial future? So that you can assess how important each of these goals is and really be able to tailor them to what's really important to you. A very important part of that investment analysis is your investment policy statement. The investment policy statement is a tool that you can utilize regardless of who you're talking to, be it your CPA, financial advisor, an investment advisor. You can take it to any of them, and even if you switch between them, this provides them instant guidance on what you're trying to achieve with your investments. So this piece should include your risk tolerance as well as your ability to assume risk. And remember, I define the two differently, because on the one hand you have your risk tolerance, which is your willingness to assume risk. So is a aggressive portfolio going to keep you up at night? Are you going to be calling your investment advisor, asking him to sell out of everything if the market tanks and you suddenly end up selling out at the exact wrong time? Or are you able to tolerate that roller coaster ride? And on the flip side of that, your ability to assume risk, which has more to do with your financial situation. Do you have the income sources to tolerate that financial roller coaster? Or are you in a situation where you're already drawing on those investment funds and really don't want them to fluctuate at this stage? The IPS should also include any additional constraints that might limit the types of investments that you can utilize. And the return assumptions really tie directly into your asset allocation. And this is one of the key components of the investment policy statement, is the breakdown of how your investments should be allocated. And there should be a different breakdown for each piece of the pie, whether it's your 401k, your IRA, your kids 529, or your individual investment account or joint investment accounts. And each one should be custom tailored to your risks as well as the goals associated with that particular investment. In addition to the asset allocation, it should also discuss the asset location, because there may come a time that it's appropriate for you to actually have certain assets invested in certain types of accounts. You may want your less tax favorable investments like your bonds and your alternative investments housed inside of a tax favorable investment vehicle like your retirement accounts. On the flip side, your more tax favorable investments like your individual stocks or ETFs that are held for the long term may be just fine in non-qualified accounts that don't have any type of tax advantage to them. The investment policy statement should discuss that, as well as the selection criteria for choosing the investments and the monitoring process. So evaluating or reevaluating those investments on a periodic basis, and then also rebalancing to address any under or overweights within your portfolio. The next section tends to look fairly simple, but involves a great deal of calculations, and that is your retirement analysis. So really assessing the trajectory of your investments and whether or not they're going to meet your retirement goals, and then working backwards to determine how much you need to be saving on a monthly basis in order to meet those goals, whether you can tailor it back a little bit and put some more money towards your vacation, or if you need to up the ante to be able to reach your goals. And if it's not feasible to reach your goals, what different things we can do to help address those goals, be it investing more aggressively, delaying retirement for a couple of years, or assessing what our expectations of retirement are. Once you've addressed all of those things, the investments, the retirement, and that sort of thing, you also want to talk about your tax situation. So I talked about asset location and where you want to put the different pieces of the pie to being the most tax favorable, but you also want to look at what your current tax bracket is, how that impacts your investments and your retirement projections, but also how you're filing your taxes and evaluating it from that perspective. Are you filing jointly, individually, or head of household, and can that be modified to potentially improve your tax situation? And that's something you'll probably want to talk with your CPA or EA about when it comes time to file, because there are a number of different strategies that can be utilized, not only from a tax harvesting standpoint with your investments, but also from a tax filing perspective. And that really applies to all of these things. It's talking to additional professionals. So when I talked about the insurance, you also want to talk to your insurance agents about that, specific insurance agents, and the financial plan should address that as well. A critically important piece of every financial plan is also the estate planning analysis, and that's evaluating your current situation relative to the current documents you have in place, be it wills, trusts, prenuptial agreements, powers of attorney, and then helping you determine what additional documentation you need, and then giving you an idea of what those documents actually do and why you need them. And then also addressing if you need to talk to an estate planning attorney right away, if it's something that's maybe not critically important just yet, and if there's other methodologies that you can use to help complete those documents in the meantime. But again, an estate planning attorney is probably never a bad idea, regardless of what stage you're in. Sometimes something as simple as changing the titling of an account can help address some of the gaps in your estate plan, or even just making sure that the beneficiaries on your retirement plans and your other accounts are up to date if you've had a divorce or someone in the family's passed away. Lastly, we want to address any other issues that may come up for your specific situation, be it particular loans that you have on the table, additional questions that you might have, or unique investment options that are available to you, like a company stock option plan or something along those lines. Anything that doesn't fall into the other categories directly and needs some additional attention. Ultimately, this should all boil down to one clean summary for you to be able to utilize for action steps. And it should prioritize those action steps for you, so you know which one is the most important to you to address first in order to help you achieve your goals in the most effective way possible, so that you can really optimize your time and determine who is going to perform each action step, what they're doing, and how you're going to be able to hold them accountable. Again, I do suggest possibly assigning specific dates for when these action steps need to be completed, and I definitely think order is very important, because not everything within your financial plan that needs to be addressed right away. Now that you know what a financial plan should include and how it can help you, you probably want to know where you can even get one. To start with, you can actually download some software, purchase some software, and create your own financial plan, or even just work to start answering some of the questions that I've brought up here on your own. Some of the software out there that I'm familiar with include some of these that Investopedia talks about, like Money Guide Pro, eMoney, MoneyTree, NaviPlan. I've heard of all of those, but these are just some samples of things you might want to look at. The alternative would be to hire someone to actually create a plan for you, so a financial advisor or a certified financial planner, and many of them will actually use some of this very same software. You just may find that hiring them is more functional and maybe even more cost effective than buying the software yourself and trying to figure out how to utilize it. If you do decide to utilize a financial advisor, you want to keep some things in mind, and I actually have another entire video dedicated to choosing a financial advisor, how they go about creating their financial plan. Some financial advisors, like I said, are going to utilize the very same financial planning software that you have access to, or potentially ones that you don't have access to, and others are going to create financial plans completely from scratch. And there's some pluses and minuses to both of those. On the one hand, the financial planning software is going to help ensure that none of the pieces of the puzzle are missed. There's some ease to the financial planning software, and it also provides some consistency within the financial plan. On the flip side, a financial plan that's created from scratch tends to be more custom tailored to you and your family's specific needs. So pluses and minuses to both. Either way, you're going to want to evaluate the cost. I've seen financial plans anywhere from a few $100s to $10,000 or more, but most of the time it's somewhere in between that $1,000 to $3,000 range, and it's largely dependent on complexity. So the more complex your family situation is, or the more complex your investments are, the more expensive the plan tends to be. Doesn't mean it's not worthwhile, because having this concise document in place can be incredibly advantageous. Ultimately though, having this document available is designed to help you paint a picture of your current financial situation projected into the future, so that you have direct action steps and recommendations that you can use to fill all the gaps in your financial plan, so that you can ultimately achieve your financial goals. If you have any questions or comments on this video, by all means, give me a call, shoot me an email, or post your questions here. Thanks.